We have travelled to 6 countries in 3 continents around the world this year. It has been a wild ride, which gave us heaps of content for our podcast. In fact, 52 episodes. Thank you for listening and supporting us. It is a true labour of love, and we plan to keep bringing you great travel information and inspiration through our travel adventures from all over the world next year. Here's to the next 52 weekly travel episodes. But first, let's give you a quick, fun overview of our favourite places and experiences we had this year from Mexico, Italy, and New Zealand. So stay listening to the end, though, to hear what travel plans we have for 2024. That includes at least another 5 countries. We're still in the planning stages. We also share some of the ways we're going to experiment with the podcast. So that's pretty cool. So please enjoy episode 85, all about the best of our 2023 world travels. Cheers! And welcome to the Beach Travel Wine Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Leanne.
And I'm Lyle, and this is the travel podcast for beach-loving, wine-drinking couples over 50.
So if that sounds like you, grab yourself a drink, sit back, relax and listen as we go travelling the world, one wine at a time.
Cheers.
Happy New Year, Lyle.
Happy New Year. Buenos dias, Leonita.
So this is our first podcast of 2024, and we're starting that by doing a bit of a recap of 2023 and also telling people what we've got planned coming up for this year in our travel plans and podcasting, yes?
Really?
Yeah, sounds exciting, doesn't it?
Fair enough.
What do you mean? That's what we're doing, isn't it?
Sure.
That's what we talked about?
Sure.
We're here in our podcast studio on the beautiful Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. It is tourist season. It is flat out. There are people everywhere. There's boats, there's cars, there's motorbikes. So we apologise in advance for any background noise that we can't get rid of today, yeah?
Sure.
Yeah, it's crazy out there, isn't it?
Yeah, but everybody's having a great time,
Yeah.
Rich, and everybody's got a smile on their face, and it's, in between Christmas and New Year, and, yeah, it's great to be alive.
It is, and be living here on the Sunshine Coast.
Sure.
All right, Lyle, 2023 was a huge year for us, wasn't it? We've put out 52 travel podcasts, so we didn't miss a week, yeah, which I thought was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the podcast really grew a lot, when you get your statistics at the end of the year, and it was actually quite, satisfying to see how much growth we've got and how much support we've got out there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is a labour of love. There's no sponsorship or any of that sort of thing. We do it because we really enjoy it. So to get people listening to it and downloading it, yeah, it makes you feel good. And also the fact that Leanne gets so many inquiries from all over the world about our travels on whether it be email or
social media
in general. It's really satisfying. And for people to turn around and get back to us and say, look, we went to this place because you suggested it.
Yeah, it's great.
And we thoroughly enjoyed it. Like it gives you a bit of the old adrenaline rush or endorphins.
I got an email yesterday afternoon, and someone wanted to know where we stayed in a particular place, and just shared a bit more information. And yeah, I love that. That does make it worthwhile. And if you've listened to some of our interview podcasts that we've done, Lyle will tell everybody that I wanted to start a podcast. So when I put him into a nursing home, he's got something to do rather than watch TV. Now I didn't say that, but maybe it's not a bad idea. So Lyle, let's move on. Once again, like our most popular podcast was Barcelona, by far. Everyone seems to love that one. But the 5 countries that we will listen to him most, and I think the 5th one's going to be a surprise for you, the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, and the 5th one last year was Spain. Can you guess where it might be this year?
Croatia?
Nope.
Where?
Germany.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the 5th most listened to country was people from Germany listening to our podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it was surprising. I wouldn't have thought that many people would speak English. Well, I suppose that's ridiculous.
Of course they ridiculous.
Would. Of course they would. Well, that's great.
Yeah. So it's nice that we're spreading, we've been 120 countries we've been listened to in. So that's, that's nearly the whole world. It's fabulous. And also we are the top 10 podcast. So when people are listening, they've got their top 10 podcasts for 2,500 people. That's on Spotify. That's great, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Surprising.
So, yeah, that's really, well, it's nice because we do put a lot of work into it. But what we want to talk about first, after we've been waffling now, is the highlights of our travelling, not necessarily the podcast that we did, but so this year we travelled to 5 countries, 3 continents, and we started our overseas trips in Mexico.
Sure.
And we did a tour there, and it was a full-on tour, but we got some great podcast episodes out of that. You want to tell me what some of your highlights were?
Well, firstly, I think one of my biggest highlights of this year is the fact that I've always said that I can't sleep on planes.
Oh yeah.
This year, apart from New Zealand, because New Zealand's only 3.5 hours, but when we both went to Mexico and also to Italy, I slept.
Yeah.
In fact, which was and the thing about that was, we were basically asleep before the first trolley came around with the drinks, which is normally our trap. But yeah, for the first time, and I think part of that is that we've always got the extra leg room, and
we did fly at 9 o'clock at night, which I think helps when you.
Yeah, but we've always done that.
Yeah.
But this time, I think you just get so used to it, and you know, get over your anxiety and that sort of thing. And yeah, that was a real big highlight. So hats off to Emirates.
But our Mexico flight was with United Airlines.
Oh, that's
and we
great.
flew direct from Brisbane to San Francisco. Yes,
Yeah.
and then San Francisco to Mexico City. Now, we've got all the places we're going to talk about. We've done a whole series of Mexico podcasts, and if you go to beachtravelwine.com/Mexico, and I'll put that link in the podcast description on the player you're listening on now, you can go and see all the episodes we did and all the pictures, because there's some spectacular pictures that we took while we were in Mexico.
Sure.
So do you want me to talk about my highlights of Mexico first? Would you like that? Okay. So I wanted to go to Mexico because it was a close, or a reasonably close country that spoke Spanish. So for me, one of the highlights was being able to use my Spanish. There's a lot less people speak English in Mexico than you'd think. No, not so much in Mexico City, but that makes me happy, being able to speak Spanish. I was blown away with Mexico City. I loved the Zocalo, the big, what do you call that? The plaza. Yeah, thank you. The big Zocalo right in the middle, and just the quirky shops. And I would have liked to have spent more time in Mexico City, just exploring there. So I really enjoyed that. And we had a great accommodation overlooking the Zocalo and watched the sun go down and that sort of thing. So I did enjoy that, and also the artwork of Diego
Rivera.
Yeah, he was obviously the Frida Kahlo, and he was like their what do you call it? They loved him, in Mexico back in the the early 1900s, didn't they? He was like their favourite son. Yeah. Yeah,
and he was a bit of a when I say naughty boy, he was basically a renowned communist, and they sheltered Trotsky, the guy from Russia, and Frida Kahlo actually had an affair with him.
Yeah, but the artwork that he's got around the city was
fabulous.
Yeah, it was a real highlight.
Yeah, very mainly murals, and we went to a place which was an ex-convent, and it was fabulous. Yeah. Really, really good.
Yeah, we enjoyed. So that was my highlight of that area, and then I really enjoyed Monte Alban.
Yeah,
it was an archaeological site,
and it was your birthday.
Yeah, and those archaeological sites in Mexico, and we saw a lot of them. But they're just the way they had designed the symmetry of them, with they did it all to do with the stars and astronomy and mathematics, and there's a whole lot of stuff went into that. It blows you away when you find out. That's what I thought was pretty incredible about that. And they face the moon, the sun, and all. It's all comes together with the calendar and everything, right? There's certain days of the year where there's a snake goes up the stairway. When it's to do with the shadows and things.
Correct.
Yeah. So and the echoes, and I just thought that was really the acoustics. I really enjoyed that. Am I getting ahead of you? What?
Oh no, I think that we did a tour. Was it with Tripadil?
Yeah.
That was a tour. I thought that there definitely was enough time in Mexico City. I thought I would have loved. It's a sort of town. It's a sort of city you could probably spend 2 weeks in. But we had like a day and a half, which was a bit disappointing. But we went to the museum there, which basically described well, there was exhibitions of each of the cultures, whether it be Aztecs or the Mayan, whatever. So to do that initially was good because it really set us up for the rest of the tour. One of the things that I enjoyed about it was probably the history, which is nothing unusual for me to enjoy the history. But I had a pretty good idea on the history prior to the holiday because I'd listened to a Dan Carlin podcast on basically the Mayan history on Mexico. So, and our guy, Tacho, I thought was just, he was fabulous. I mean,
and
really good.
The way I broke the podcast on Mexico down was we sort of did it in sections, so we tell you all about that museum and all that sort of stuff in the first episode. So once again, just go to the BitTroubleWine.com/Mexico and they're all there. So
I suppose one of the things that I learned from going to Mexico was initially I was sort of taken aback a bit by the culture, and because it's not the same as Australian culture. And coming home and reflecting on it, and one of the things that I really made me think about is the fact that how can anybody say one culture is better than the other? Because your culture is just based on living experiences. And to go to Mexico City and then compare that to Brisbane in Queensland is just ludicrous. So
it was a bit of an eye-opener for you.
Much so. So the fact that, us in the West sort of say that we've got, that we're the most well-educated and all the rest of it. And maybe that's the case. I don't know. But I don't think that takes away from the main culture as what you were talking about, how they used, the sun and...
it was incredibly clever.
Astronomy and that sort of thing. So...
They understood maths much more back then.
Yeah. But I think the other side of it too is their religious beliefs, the indigenous religious beliefs regarding, sacrificing, human sacrifices and all that sort of thing, and the knock-on effects of that.
Yeah, but no different to gladiators being killed and people in...
Oh, look, it's no different than the Romans and what they did.
Like,
so,
that we can, so we... All right, so then there's a couple other places that I really loved in Mexico. Palenque was one. It's a little town, and it's we stayed in a really nice hotel there, but it was the Palenque archaeological site, which was the only one that we went to that was actually in a jungle, and it felt like Indiana Jones was going to come swinging through the vines at any time, like it was just, there were howler monkeys in the trees.
Sure.
And there were big skulls on the buildings, and there was a guy filming a TV show, and a guy's running up the stairs almost in an Indiana
National Geographic.
And so I really love that, and then we had to walk from there back to the bus, which was sort of through waterfalls and bridges, and that was spectacular.
And from what I remember, that they've only uncovered about 10% of that actual Mayan.
So go and check that out on the photos, because that's amazing. And then of course Agua Azul, I think we'd have to put that probably up there as one of the top sites to see in Mexico, which was like just basically the limestone? Water, like pools full of that bright, brilliant blue, which the limestone makes it look even bluer. Yeah, and just waterfall.
Well, it turns like into calcium, so that
So waterfall after waterfall and swimming hole after swimming hole. We climbed to the top of that and swam in that. That was just beautiful.
Yeah, I think that was and the whole thing of there's no workplace and healthy. There's no
we could swim wherever we wanted to.
You can swim wherever you wanted. There's no signs to say you can't do this or you can't do that.
Yeah,
you can do it. So in other words, the responsibility's all on you. It was. Look, that was a great day, a really good day.
And then probably the last couple of things, like my highlights would be Chichen Itza, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world.
Yeah.
And that, once again, that's a ancient, temple ruin, and it's still in almost original condition. It's absolutely fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, one of the thing that fascinated me was the actual ball court.
Yeah, that was separate to that main temple that you see.
Yeah, and that's
it's like the size of a soccer field.
Yeah, size of a soccer field, and it was, I suppose, it was a ball game. Now, the interesting thing about that is if you won that particular contest, you were the ones that were sacrificed, and because
because you thought you were going to heaven or going to wherever you were going to go.
So that was interesting. I think that one of the places that I really was surprised by was the Basilica of Guadalupe.
Right.
And it was
that was sort of earlier in the trip,
that was early in it, and it was not far from Mexico City, and there's this huge church there that basilica that holds 30,000 people.
Right.
And the story is that there's a coat that a Mexican guy was given by Our Lady. And
when Lyle says Our Lady, he means Mary.
Mary. So anyway, cut a long story short.
That'd be great.
The guy meets Mary. Mary says that she wants a basilica built there. The Mexican guy says, "Well, how can I convince people?" He takes off his coat. He puts it on the ground. Mary puts all these Castilian roses. Of course, it'd be Castilian,
which is Spanish.
Takes it to the Archbishop. When the Archbishop opens the coat, the flowers fall away, and there on the inside of the coat is the image of Our Lady. Now, that's actually hung up inside the church, and you've got to go on an escalator, not an escalator, what's the word? Conveyor belt to go past it, so you're not there forever. But I just found the whole story fascinating.
It is, and we tell a much more in-depth story and all about that in that podcast episode. So once again, beachtrailwine.com/Mexico. But to finish off Mexico, before we move on, to Chichen Itza. But I think this next one is probably my favorite of all in Mexico, was the Ilquil cenote. Now, a cenote was formed like 10,000 odd years ago when a shower of meteorites hit the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. And basically they're these great big holes. Well, some of them aren't that big. Some of them are tiny. But the Ilquil one is quite big. And you walk down stairs, and you look down and there's all these beautiful vines growing down. You can actually swim underground. It was amazing. So honestly, go and check that out. It's worth looking at the pictures of that, wasn't it?
Yeah. And that was a highlight.
That's a once in a lifetime, I reckon.
Yeah, and that's really close to Chichen Itza.
Yeah. And then, of course, we finished in Cancun, which was a nice way to finish the holiday. And we had 3 days just lazing around the pool and the beach. And you went to the Isla de Mujeres, which is a beautiful island off about half an hour off the coast, didn't you?
Yeah, that's the island where the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea meet.
Yeah. So we had a wonderful time in Mexico, as with culture, history, just so, scenery, landscape. It's basically got everything, hasn't it?
Yeah, we travelled 2,500 kilometres.
We did, from one side of Mexico to the other. So once again, go and check them out on our website at beachtravelwine.com. Our next overseas trip that we did this year was to Italy. And to say that those episodes were popular is probably an understatement.
Yeah.
We saw a definite spike as soon as we started publishing Italian episodes, which just goes to show it is popular. Now, you had a bit of a aha moment about Mexico. I had a little bit of an aha moment about Italy, because I haven't wanted to go to Italy because it's one of the most visited places, and everyone from Australia goes to Italy, and I'm a bit of a diehard Spain fan. But we went, and I can see why everyone loves it. Right? It's like it's almost like it's fake. It's so beautiful and like a movie set. Like everywhere, every city, every coastal place you go, there's just not one thing that's not beautiful there, right?
Yeah, and I've sort of tried to sort of ask myself, why is it the way it is? And I think part of it is one thing is Italy's was only united, became Italy in 1860 something,
Yeah,
1861, I think it was. So it's only been around for, as it is,
yes,
for 250 years. However, then you go back into history and you go back to the Roman Empire and and you go back to the Medici family in Florence. So and I think part of the reason why it was so rich is because where it's geographically located. So there was a lot of trade. There's and places like Venice, which you absolutely adored.
Yeah, like that's on my. I said to Lyle, I want to do some highlights, and he's written a whole essay, and I've just got a list, and my list is Venice because I arrived into Venice, and there's no other city like Venice, right?
Correct. And my point on what I'm trying to make it is that I think because of where Venice was, because
it was
where it was located,
there's a lot of money.
There was a lot of money, and of course, what happened was
they build nice buildings. They've got
the money to
statues
to build. They've got money to go to war, to go to Constantinople and
get more stuff,
pinch the stuff, and then you've got places like Florence, which is just. It blows my mind how absolutely beautiful Florence is. And then you've got all these Renaissance artists that are just, you've got the Raphael, Da Vinci, what's the other Ninja Turtle? Michelangelo and Donatello, and all these world names that you just know. And they all lived in this area, and
their artwork's still there.
And their artwork's still there, but that artwork wouldn't be there but for the Medici family who sponsored that art. So I'm not saying that the Medici family or
stop yelling, Lyle.
The people in Venice, the people that were in charge, the Doge, for instance, in Venice, were nice people because. They probably weren't. However, the legacy that they left is a legacy that keeps on giving.
So your highlight in that is the history and the art.
Yeah, I just thought it was outstanding.
Well, as I started to say, I like Venice because there's no place like it. When you're coming from the airport in that private taxi and it pulls up to your hotel, which is on the Grand Canal, and your room overlooks the Grand Canal and the Rialto Bridge, and Venice. We did a nice food tour there.
Hotel Vasari.
Vasari, yeah. Yep. So that Venice is definitely a highlight. I would go back to Venice in a heartbeat. I know a lot of people, you're either Team Venice or not. I'm definitely on Team Venice. Florence, I adored. I like the cities because there's even though there's a lot of people, there's a lot of walking around. Like Florence is all, like everywhere you go, you turn a corner, there's another statue or another fountain, or there's a bridge or a garden.
Or leather shop.
Yeah. Yeah, that was your thing, not mine. But I love the gardens there, and the artwork there. So Florence, I'd go back to in a heartbeat. Tuscany, Castello Vecchio Maggio, where we stayed there. I would like to spend more time in Tuscany and just explore that wine region because it is like out of a movie set. Any of those movies that you see about Tuscany, it's all true. The landscape's just like that. The buildings are just like that. The terracotta rooftops are just like that. It's just magical, and I can't tell you enough. Go and have a look at the pictures on beachtravelwine.com and /Italy, and all the cities that we went to are all represented there where you can see all the pictures. And Rome was another huge highlight, and so I would go back to Venice, Florence, Tuscany and Rome. I adored those places.
Rome was, when you take into account the Forum, the history, the Colosseum, the Vatican.
I think though what made some of those places were the tour guides that we got.
Sure.
Like they were amazing, and we did more tours in Italy than we've ever done. but we learnt so much more and got so much more out of it because of those tours, didn't
Yeah, I think so. And the other thing too about these towns is when they were
Cities.
built, or cities, sorry, I should say, sorry, Leanne, but these cities were built long time ago. So they're actually very walkable
The old
cities.
old parts of the city, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I said we went to five countries. We actually went to 6.
well,
The Vatican.
oh, that's true.
It's
Yeah,
its
the
own
Vatican.
country.
Yeah, and look, and the Vatican, seriously,
Yeah, you got to go and
is
see it.
overwhelming.
Yeah, I was amazing. I wasn't I like the cities more than the coastal places, but I think the coastal places, we did, and saying that, we did that hike in Cinque Terre, which was amazing. We sat and watched some beautiful sunsets, in Monterosso and, the what's that one?
Rio Maggio.
Yeah, Roger Moore, as I like to say.
Rio Maggio.
Just coming into the port with those beautiful coloured houses and stuff. It is stunning. It's exactly as the pictures show. Lake Como, we had a bit of a bad experience with crowds and boats there, but the lake itself and some of the other places we visited, like Leno on the lake, and that the beautiful villa that I took the photos. They're probably the nicest photos I've got anywhere in any photos I've taken. And we did a day trip into Switzerland, Lugano. That was absolutely stunning, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think the mistake we made Lan and I have talked about it in Como, is we listened to a podcast before we left, and the gentleman said, look, you need to hire a private boat to do Lake Como, and I think he quoted about $900.
Euro, I think it was.
Euro, whatever it was. And in hindsight, we should have done that because the crowds in Como are out of control.
They're not regulating how many people can come in, and the Airbnbs, there's no rules around that. And they just haven't kept up. They are building a new ferry station, but it's a little bit late.
I think too, the crowds that do go to places like Como, the infrastructure is just not there.
That's what I just
they just can't cope.
Yeah.
But in saying that, as Leanne said, the photos, you've got to check them out on the website. I've never seen photos more beautiful. It is beautiful.
Yes. So beachtravelone.com/Italy, where the whole collection that we did, podcasts and all the photos are all there, and you can pick up which ones you want to have a look at. So that was nice. And you liked, then we did, at the end, we did a tour with Intrepid, which was fabulous. We did it with some friends, and old friends, and now some new friends as well, we've made some lovely new friends. It was only a small tour, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the highlight of that for me, and it was from Rome to Amalfi.
Yep.
But I adored Pompeii, the new Pompeii and the ancient Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius. That was like what we learnt there, what we saw there was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, going from Rome and seeing the Forum and just the ruins there, then to go to Pompeii and actually see the buildings that are still there in full, like the
2,000 years have been covered in stuff. They've been,
and then they uncover it, and you can see the murals on the wall.
Well, the mosaics on the floor, the tables that they sat at, the staircases that they walked up.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And then the next day we went to Mount Vesuvius.
Yeah.
Up the top.
Yeah. So
and did the tour.
we climbed around the rim of, or hiked around the rim of Mount Vesuvius. But also, those beautiful coastal towns that everyone goes to. You've got Sorrento, Positano, Amalfi, but what another thing that sticks out as a highlight to me, and it's one of the most touristy things you can do, is going to the Isle of Capri.
Oh, seriously.
And we did have a private boat that day.
Yeah, we did the private boat, and it was unbelievably what a day.
What a day, yeah. So you've got, the iconic sort of timber Italian boats that you see George Clooney, showing off on. We were on one of those, and some of the people are sitting up the front of the boat with their legs hanging over, and we're sitting at the back in the shade. And you're going along the coastline, and you're looking back up at Sorrento,
and then they stop, and you can dive off the back of the boat,
and the water. Go and have a look at the pictures. It's like the boat's floating on nothing. It's just spectacular. And that's when we did a bit of singing with that Miley Cyrus song. That was so much fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember watching you girls sing and having a great time, and I was sort of on one side of the boat by myself, and I'm looking at the coastline, and I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm off the Isle of Capri. Yeah. My favourite girl's singing her heart out, and we're having a cold beer, and it
was amazing.
It doesn't get any better.
And one of the other things that I liked about Italy was, we met some new friends. So we, like Tracy and Perry, we met them in Venice, and we're still in contact with them. Jackie and Sean, we met them in Florence, and then we saw them again in Rome, and hoping to meet up with them again, sometime soon. And also the new friends that we met on the Intrepid tour, like Mandy and Christy and Lynn and Cassia, like how good was that? Like it's part of traveling that's really nice.
Yeah, I think probably one thing that we learned, well, we've always sort of known it, but one thing we did both in Florence and in Rome is we went to some local bars.
Oh, look, that's my next thing, bars.
Okay, local bars that weren't the most flash or,
but we only
pristine.
Found them because they were around the corner from where we stayed.
Yeah, and both of them were just around the corner from where we stayed. And we went in and
we talked to the barman.
We talked to the people behind the bar, and they were so friendly. And Angelo was so good looking that it just made the holiday. And we went there, we were in Rome for 5 days, 6 or 7 days. We were in Florence for 7 days, and we call in and have a drink on our way out for dinner
every day,
each day. Yeah. And they, to the stage where I think they were looking forward to seeing us
as much as we were looking forward to seeing them.
And they were just so generous with the information, and they all spoke English.
Yeah.
And if I had to give anybody advice, the number one thing I'd say is go to a local bar, make yourself known, and you will get all the information you need on the best places to go, and probably places that are not on the tourist map.
Yeah. So Italy was definitely a huge, beautiful eye-opener for me. I loved it.
Well, I can remember sitting in the airport, in Rome airport, waiting for the plane to take us back home to Australia, and I said to Leanne, I could do another 8 weeks now. Yeah. I was that impressed. I loved it. The way we did it slow.
Yeah. It was great.
We embraced it. We have a totally different attitude to art, Renaissance art, because we know a lot more about it. It was just outstanding.
It was. So once again, on the podcast play you're listening on now, go to the description, and I'll put a link to the Italian webpage with all the photos and the links and the maps and everything there. www.beachtravelwine.com/Italy. So check out those great resources that we have for you. So it was a busy year, and our third overseas trip was to across the ditch, as they say, to New Zealand.
Correct.
And we have been to New Zealand numerous times, and this time we went back to Queenstown, and we went for 2 weeks, and we were visiting with all my adult children and their partners and all my grandchildren. So in total there was 8 adults and 8 children. So 16 of us, which was
frightening.
It was maybe for you. But we all found our own way there, but some of them caught planes via Sydney and whatever, and we all ended up in the heart of Queenstown at the Glebe Apartments, and it was the most amazing location.
Yeah, and I think the Glebe Hotel, I wouldn't hesitate, the Glebe Apartments, I wouldn't hesitate to stay there again. It was that good.
Yeah, and once again, all the information we're talking about now will be in a link in the show, in the podcast description, beachtravelwine.com/New Zealand. So they're all there together, which is pretty handy for everyone.
Yeah. So Queenstown is on the South Island of New Zealand. So there's 2 major islands. There's the North and the South. Yep. Queenstown's towards the southern end, and it is the most beautiful landscape that we have seen in the world.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to find somewhere better, but we haven't yet. We'll keep trying.
No, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah. But Queenstown is what they call the adventure capital of the world.
Sure.
And it's where bungee jumping was invented. And they've got so many activities you can do there. Now, we went in winter because we went on a ski holiday. And all the kids, bar the 2 little 1-year-olds, all learnt to ski. And my daughter learnt to ski. So that was such a highlight. And we tell you all about which ski fields are best, which ones we did, the lessons that you can do and what's good for little kids and, young, a bit older kids and adults as well. We've got a whole lot of information on that in those podcast episodes. But, the closest ski field to Queenstown is called Coronet Peak. And even if you don't ski, it's worth going up there because the views from Coronet Peak are just amazing. I love it when you walk up the stairs from like the ski shop area and you just basically walk out and you're right at the bottom of that mountain, like it's covered in snow. It's just one of the best things. I love it so much. And I think that was very popular. Some of us snowboarded, some of us skied. It was awesome. And I would definitely can't wait to go back and do that again. And even now, one of the grandkids talk about it, and the little 3.5-year-old, he just wants to go and live in New Zealand because he loves it so much, which I think's really, really cute. The Queenstown itself, though, it's on the Lake Wakatipu, and one of the highlights. And we talk about the episodes we did a skiing one. I actually did a episode with my daughter. She co-hosted instead of you, and we talked about traveling with kids, because we had 8 kids and what you can do. And, we gave some free activities and some other things that didn't even cost that much and lots of stuff to do. And to say a week in Queenstown with kids, you can't see it all. Just so much to go to see and act. And then you and I do an episode all about just what to do in Queenstown with adults. And basically there's and kids really, but the steamboat, the water taxi, just walking around the lake, the gardens and the shops, the cafes, the shopping, the gondola.
The food is unbelievable.
Yeah, there's just so much.
The food and wine, basically. And the second week we did adult things.
Yeah, so the kids all only had a week with us and then we had a week.
And look, my favourite part about the first week, to be honest, is watching the smile on Leanne's face and enjoying time with her adult children and then to turn around and watch the grandkids learn how to ski. I mean, it was just...
Well, not only did they learn to ski, they're scooting down past me.
Sure. But that's not unexpected. That's what kids do because they got no fear. But that was fabulous. But one of the highlights for me of the holiday was we did an interview with Greg Hay, and he's the owner of Wet Jacket Wine. He is one of the most charismatic people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to meet a few. And his wine,
Wet Jacket Wines,
I've got to tell you,
some of the best
probably matched his charisma and quality. I mean, that was so good. And then we did some wine tours, hop on, hop off bus.
That was a highlight, the wine hopper bus.
Yeah, which we'd never done before. And
we've done private wine tours, so they take you in and do the tastings.
And then we did the bus trip. Remember, we did the bus trip, and a couple of and 3 of the actual stops are wineries. Yeah, unbelievable. $2 or $4 return back to Queenstown.
That's on the local transport.
Yeah, on Gibson Valley Wines. Oh, look, it is the best place.
Arrowtown's a beautiful little spot to visit.
Magnificent.
Yeah, and once again, go and check out the scenery. But there, I'm going to say there's probably besides the skiing with my family and having everyone there together.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
And I got home and I just put a holiday book together because it was. Like as a nana of 8, that was special. That'll stay in my memory banks forever. But there were 2 things I loved doing, and besides the skiing was the jet boat ride.
Sure.
The shot over jet boat, like that was thrilling. It was, you're just on this, this boat that goes so fast through this part of the canyon there, and you can't go in this part of the canyon unless you do the shot over jet, and it goes so close to the cliff faces.
It's almost like cigarette paper width how close the boats get to the
and
actual
then they do 360
cliffs.
They do 360 spins and
This is a girl that hates driving on the road at any time. We can't hire a car in Europe because Lan doesn't want to do that, but she'll get on the jet boat.
Oh, and you want to drive in Europe?
Oh, not really.
No.
But because I love the public transport in Europe. So, but look,
so that was, and the day I went with two of my grandkids, it had snowed the night before, so there was snow all the way up to the edge of the Shotover River, and then the sun was then shining down on it, and it was just the most picturesque, beautiful thing I've seen. And just to share that with two of my grandkids was pretty spectacular. I absolutely love that. And then, I'm going to say, don't you? I'm going to say it then, because was a bucket list item for me. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And I've wanted to do this. I don't even know why, but I always wanted to go hot air ballooning. And so I dragged Lyle along to my bucket list, and I had to give him a bit of a, pep talk for this one, because A, he hates getting up early, B, he hates the cold, and C, I hate heights. So, it would sound like a disaster ready to happen, but it was one of the best things I've ever done.
And we were lucky enough; we had our own section.
Yeah, okay, we did. But the guy
that's on the balloon.
Rock, the pilot, and his crew. They were just so helpful and fun, and so much information, and just watching the balloon go up, and then we floated over that beautiful area. We got Coronet Peak and the Remarkables, and we tell you all about that in one of our episodes.
Arrowtown.
Yeah.
Wake.
And when we landed, it was still -4 degrees, and the ground was still crunchy for our champagne breakfast. But so beachtravelwine.com/Italy if you want to know more about that activity, because that was absolutely special, wasn't it?
Well, I tell you what, I would say that I'd offer a money back guarantee for Queenstown for anybody. For anybody that wouldn't find it amazing. Yeah, the money back guarantee.
Something wrong with you.
It is absolutely beautiful.
If you like hiking, if you like shopping, if you like water activities, if you like food, if you like wine, if you like scene landscape, if you like golf,
if you like helicopter flights,
you've done Milford Sound, like that's the 8th natural wonder of the world they're talking about. There is something in this area for everybody, and I just adore it. In fact, we loved it so much, I want to go back and do a summer trip and do a bit more of a road trip to see some more wine regions.
Because in New Zealand too, the other side of it too, there's more sheep than people. So that's why Leanne would be willing to do a road trip. There's not much traffic, but it's just magnificent. And as Leanne said, we've been there probably 4 times already, and we're seriously thinking about doing the summer road trip. And it's just amazing.
And if you don't go in winter, as I was saying, there's mountain biking, there's hiking, and now what's becoming one of the most popular things that people go to this area in New Zealand for is golf.
Golf, yeah.
Yeah, like they're building more golf courses every day, so...
And we haven't even... I know we've mentioned wineries, but the Pinot Noir...
Yeah.
Which is what Central Otago is famous for.
It's the most southern wine region in the world.
Yeah, it is as good as it gets.
Yeah, so that was an absolute highlight, as you can tell. We just go on and on about New Zealand. Yes.
Yeah. But then while you're talking there, I'm thinking, Jesus, bloody Italy was bloody good too. And Mexico, for all different other reasons, was fabulous as well.
Yeah.
Really, we've been lucky.
Yeah, we have.
It's been a big year, but
so remember, go to beachtravelwine.com/New Zealand, all one word, and you'll see all the photos and, as I said, the resources, the maps, the links to everywhere we went, and to get that information. So not a bad summary of the year that we've had travelling overseas. And amongst that, we've been to different places in Australia as well. So, go and check out the last 52 episodes. We've done all over the world. It's been a joy to bring those podcasts to our listeners, hasn't it?
Sure, yeah. And we do are very, 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 very grateful for the opportunity that we get to do this stuff.
And in that, on that note, coming up, Lyle, I don't want to give too much away because we are still in the planning part of our holidays for next year, but maybe suffice to say we're going to go to at least 5 more countries next year, and most of them, or all of them at this stage, are in Europe.
Yeah.
And so we're still in the planning stages. We're looking at a few different options, but out of those 5 countries, 4 of them neither of us have been to before.
Yeah, you
And
could almost say they were on the Eastern Bloc countries, Balkans.
Oh, I don't know about that, but anyway.
Well, we've got Hungary.
Oi, we're not giving it away.
Croatia. Slovenia.
Oh, spoiler surprise.
Montenegro.
There we go. There you go, Ron. Thanks.
What else?
Oh,
that's right. We're going to just do a little romantic trip to northern Spain as well.
Well, maybe. Like, we haven't got it all in plan. Good on you.
I'll put money on it that we do this.
Oh, you just ruined my surprise. Good on you.
Well, you said, when we sat down to plan this particular podcast, we were going to give them an idea of what we were probably going to do.
5 countries in Europe.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Is that all you were going to give?
Yep.
Oh, well, Seriously?
All right. So okay, fine.
Can't wait to get to Budapest.
Yeah. That's the plan, is we fly into Budapest. That's our first stop. So anyway, we're still, as I said, we're still working with a travel agent. We're working on some different itinerary ideas and stuff. So we'll get back to you more with that, obviously. But as it's summertime in Australia, and I know a lot of our listeners are in the Northern Hemisphere in the middle of winter, we're going to try over the next few weeks to just do just something a bit different. We're going to call it a bit of a summer series, I think, and just talk about a little bit about what it's like down here, down under on the beaches of Australia. And what we haven't done, Lyle, is we haven't talked about the area that we live in. And we live, as we said at the beginning of the podcast, we live in basically a tourist spot where people always want to come on holidays, and especially this time of year. So we're going to try something different. Like Lyle and I have a favourite. We did have a favourite podcast when in Spain. He hasn't done any for quite a long while, but this guy Paul, great voice and great charisma, he would just record as he was out walking around, say Madrid or
Toledo.
Yeah. So, and we love that sort of, and just describe where he is, and he did such a good job of it. So we're gonna have a go.
What was the name of that place? What was the name of the podcast again?
When in Spain.
When in Spain. That's right.
We're going to try and use that format. Anyway, we'll see how we go. If it works, you'll get the next podcast.
If it doesn't,
then
you won't.
You won't. And I don't know what we'll do. But yeah, we're going to start with where we live here on Kings Beach on the Sunshine Coast, and we're going to walk out the front door like we love doing, and we're just going to tell you all about what it's like here with the ocean pool and the beach and the restaurants and the playgrounds and all that stuff that there's so much to see between here and basically the next beach along, and give you some ideas about the accommodation and what else you can see and do here. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
perfecto.
If we dodge the crowds and the heat, and hopefully get out and do that in the next few days. So yeah, that'll be fun, won't it?
Absolutely.
And we're going to try and do more lives. I said that last year, but we're definitely going to try and do more lives when we are traveling. We had a really bad experience in Italy doing a live, as in technically I mucked up.
I was going to say, I'm not sure it was technically.
Yeah, it was technically. Well, it was terrible because we sat there talking and no one could hear us.
Yeah.
But you know what? No one even pointed it out, so maybe no one was listening anyway.
Oh, I don't know, but we
want to do more lives of when we're out and about traveling. Just to show different places that we're in. So we just have to get over our little, not fear, but we've got some new little microphones and all the stuff. So we've got some new things.
Have we got new microphones?
Yeah, little without the cord, so we can sit and chat and I know, right?
That's
Look at us go, tech queen I am.
Yeah, obviously you proved that in Italy.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll have a crack at that. So I'm looking forward to trying to find different ways to market the podcast, and and listening to more podcasts as well. I think 2024 is going to be a huge podcast year, huge travel year for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we look forward to sharing it with you guys. So happy New Year, and
happy New Year, guys.
We'll see you next time from the beautiful Sunshine Coast. So it's arrivederci from me.
Ciao, baby.